heard of the quintessential Australian stories and folklore, we've decided to share some of the lesser-known tales. These are the kind of tales that interest us, and if you're interested in the history of Australia, the more obscure stories about places and people you may not have heard of, then stay tuned and enjoy this new series, Aussie Tales That You Weren't Taught. In this episode, we take a look at Black Mountain, also known as Queensland's Bermuda Triangle, and to the first people, Korkajaka. Black Mountain, an enigmatic and striking natural formation in far north Queensland, commands awe at first glance. Its looming presence, composed of immense granite boulders, rises abruptly amidst the landscape along the route between Mareeba and Cooktown, exuding an air of mystery known as Korkajaka by its traditional indigenous custodians. This sacred site evokes a profound sense of both reverence and trepidation. The name Korkajaka, meaning the place of the spear, stands as a testament to its history as a battleground between First Nations ancestral clans and spirits of the dreaming. With the arrival of the European settlers, new tales emerged, adding layers to its mystique. Though not widely known to many Australians, Black Mountain's online presence unveils a trove of intriguing conspiracy theories, often referred to as Queensland's Bermuda Triangle. Accounts from the late 1800s to the 1930s tell of explorers, horses, and entire cattle herds vanishing into the maze of granite rocks, never to reappear. Some of the more extravagant theories suggest that the airspace above the mountains is plagued by particular disturbances, with pilots mentioning instances of turbulence, unusual magnetic fields, or thermal currents. Gavin Deere, a geologist residing near the base of the mountain, has expressed his astonishment at the proliferation of myths surrounding Korkajaka. It's absolutely absurd, the myths and these particular websites that have become associated with it, Gavin Deere remarked. There's an entire underground culture surrounding Black Mountain. It's undeniably mysterious and holds a certain power. I don't doubt that. But at the end of the day, it's still just a pile of boulders. Over the years, Mr. Deere has conducted his own investigations into the mountain, aiming to dispel many of the popular myths. One persistent story claims that when helicopters flew over the mountain, their compasses would go haywire, he explained. However, I've personally tested this by taking compasses over the area and found no evidence of unusual magnetic variations, and helicopters fly over it all the time. It's now part of a regular tourist route, and you can see them daily en route to Cooktown. That being said, the mountain does have its peculiarities, he acknowledged. Korkajaka is known to produce loud, unexpected explosive noises. You can hear resounding cracks and explosions. That's the granite, Mr. Deere elaborated. The black coloration, actually a layer of algae, heats up intensely during the day and cools rapidly at night, as well as during thunderstorms and rain. This creates sudden episodes of weathering, and pow, the outer layer fractures and falls away. The mountain's unique topography, with its precariously stacked boulders and large gaps in between, poses significant dangers and may have played a role in the disappearances of unfortunate explorers in the past, Mr. Deere explained. Some of these boulders are actually balanced, he noted. You could jump onto a boulder the size of a car, and at times you might even feel it shift beneath you. It's quite unsettling. There are massive, oddly shaped boulders resting atop one another and plenty of open spaces where you could fall endlessly. Adding to its remarkable features, Black Mountain is home to 3 endemic species, a skink, a gecko, and a strikingly bright yellow frog, found nowhere else on Earth. Unique plant life also seems to thrive in this unusual environment, Mr. Deer added. 3 botanists recently visited and together we discovered a massive eucalypt tree, he shared. None of them, despite being world experts, could identify it. Although a man of science, Gavin Deer admitted to believing there was an inexplicable supernatural element to Kolkajaka. I truly believe it's a place of immense power, and I can understand why some Indigenous communities approach it with both fear and reverence, he shared. I personally follow a rule never to upset the mountain. It feels very karmic. You need to stay in its good graces. While most people respect the wishes of the eastern Kuku Yalanji people, the traditional owners of the land, and refrain from climbing the mountains. There are those, however, who disregard these warnings and often face consequences, Mr. Deer recounted. My eldest son once climbed the mountain despite my advice against it. By the early hours of the next morning, he was suffering from appendicitis and vomiting violently. He had to be airlifted to Cairns for emergency surgery, Mr. Deer revealed. His son realised the error he had made. Another well-known tale comes from Czech tourist Danny McCurl and his father Ivan, who camped overnight at Black Mountain in the year 2000. Their eerie experience has been widely recounted on blogs and conspiracy theory websites. Danny recounts the night they stayed there. I first heard about Black Mountain from my dad, Ivan. When he described the mysterious phenomena said to occur there, we knew immediately that we had to visit. Naturally, when I first read about Black Mountain, I dismissed the theories as exaggerations. Reflecting on the journey, Mr. McCurl recounted how he and his father initially regarded the mountain as unremarkable, but their perspective shifted dramatically after a peculiar incident during the night. We were startled by the sound of stones crumbling from the rocks above us. It felt close, and at first we thought it might have been an animal, perhaps a rock wallaby. But as it descended, we could hear the crunching of bushes and dry leaves. The sound resembled human footsteps, he recalled. And there's nothing scarier than a human when you don't want one around. After debating their options inside the tent, the father and son mustered the courage to investigate. They burst out through the tent flap, flashlight in hand, only to find nothing. The eerie experience left them utterly perplexed. The following morning, they packed up their camp, but stayed on briefly to explore the boulders with friends who hadn't spent the night there. Since then, Mr. McCurl and his father have frequently visited the memory of that unsettling night. To this day, we can't explain what occurred, but I firmly believe that there's something mysterious about this place, he shared. Although Kolkajaka, also known as Black Mountain, doesn't command the same recognition among Australians and international tourists as other famous landmarks, Mr. Deer noted its undeniable impact on visitors. I often meet tourists who've never heard of it before, yet they're so captivated when they see it that they pull over just to stand and stare, he said. For me, it's truly special, while for others it might just be visually striking. It always evokes a reaction. You simply cannot be indifferent to it. The unique hard black boulders of the mountain and surrounding national park, often referred to as granite, are actually composed of Trevethan granodiorite, a felsic intrusive igneous rock, formed during the late Permian period. It has been dated to between 259 and 251 million years ago. The Trevethan granodiorite originated as magma, which gradually cooled and solidified beneath the Earth's crust. Now, there is also a story, a legend, attached to the mountain. It is about a cannibalistic medicine man, or eater of flesh, found in the Queenslander paper for October 1926, which was an Indigenous legend of Korkajaka. The medicine man shapeshifted into a serpent and lived alongside his grandmother, whom he turned into a hawk to assist from a height. Together they preyed on the local people, first eating a young chief asleep in the camp, then children who wandered too far collecting red fungi were turned into birds, and they ate them. Eventually, though, he became more mischievous, so he changed back into human form and hid in a tree, whispering to the ears of passers-by, the neighbouring people, causing two groups to go to war at the Black Mountain. In the war, another medicine man was able to attack the eater of flesh and turn him into an iguana. The iguana was struck by lightning on the mountain. Apparently this story was told to the early European farmers, and the Aboriginal people would take their sheep, blaming it on the old legend, until, however, they were eventually found out. What an interesting legend, and what a very interesting place, Black Mountain. It's definitely somewhere I'd like to check out myself, just to see if anything happened. Disappearances at Black Mountain have been documented for centuries, and you can find most of them at Trove, with unsettling tales emerging as white settlers arrived, disregarding warnings from the Geology people.
It's hard to tell them because they want to discover the country and they don't really know what's really there. To me, I think they're heading straight into bad vibes there.
Timeline of disappearances at the Black Mountain start from July 1872, where Philip Grainer, a courier, ventures out to find a stray calf. Neither he, his horse, nor the calf are ever seen again. Around 1800, Sugarfoot Jack, a notorious criminal, and his gang flee to Black Mountain after a shootout. Despite a thorough police search, they are never found. November 1882, cattlemen Harry Owens and George Hawkins vanish while searching for stray cattle near the mountain. A police tracker involved in the search also disappears, while another returns in a deeply disturbed and incoherent state.
This is something that you don't mess around with. They tell you not to mess around with a Ouija board. Well, this is the same. You muck around with spirits and something's going to happen.
In 1890, Constable Ryan pursues a fugitive into a cave at Black Mountain. Witnesses report that Ryan never emerges. In 1892, James Wren, a prospector, disappears while fossicking in the area. Around 1920, two young explorers determined to uncover the mystery of the disappearances go missing along with several trackers who attempt to find them. Another prospector, in 1928, vanishes while fossicking. His body is later discovered with a gunshot wound to the head. Beside him lay his rifle. And in 1932, Harry Page, a traveller, disappears while hiking on Black Mountain. His body is eventually found, but the cause of death remains unknown. Australia is a large country. Many have died trying to explore it. No doubt we will have more stories about those. With so many sacred sites to the first people, without knowing it, you could find yourself in serious trouble. It's always best to do your research, especially if you're going into the outback. And if you don't know the area, never go alone. Always ensure that you tell someone where you're going. And stay tuned to our channel so as you're aware of different places that you may not want to go to. We hope you enjoyed this episode on the Black Mountain and Queensland's Bermuda Triangle, or Korkajaka. If you enjoyed the episode, definitely give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you're aware when we're posting more Aussie tales you haven't been taught.
touches their soul, and to respect that is the most important thing. To disrespect it is something that will haunt you forever, tormented by the spirits of our ancestors.